Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, as you can see by the screen, haven't done one of these in a little bit, but we are going to be doing our predictions for the upcoming Major 5 of the CDL. Obviously the final major of the season before we head into champs. The regular season is all wrapped up. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this one. Obviously helps the channel grow. We're kind of back from our little hiatus, couple week hiatus, but excited to be back. If you guys tuned into the last podcast, you obviously saw a lot of changes were made. Very long. We're finally officially looking into potentially getting things ongoing, into looking into getting Spotify, Apple Music type stuff, so it's a little bit easier to listen to, as well as having kind of an aspect to keep tuning into the YouTube version so you can see the predictions themselves. But that should get rolling hopefully here in the next few weeks, months. We can finally kind of get that done. But yeah, if you guys watched the last episode of the podcast, it was obviously the longest one by far, completely new format, and we had a new co-host, Kyle. We weren't sure how good the first one was going to go or how well it was going to go, because obviously that was Kyle's first time really ever doing a podcast, and not only was it his first time doing a podcast, but also my first time doing a podcast with somebody else, and not just kind of solo going through it and completely doing it alone, which is obviously different. In my opinion, it was a lot easier though, because I didn't have to think of everything on my own, keep the whole thing flowing by myself. I had someone else to kind of bounce things off of and bring up new perspectives that I hadn't thought of, and I actually think Kyle did a fantastic job. I told him that. I was expecting him to be a little choppier in his first one just because of nerves. I mean, anybody's going to be nervous in that. But I actually thought he did a fantastic job. So comment down below what you guys thought of that new format. Did you enjoy it? Do you have any ideas? Because, I mean, obviously you guys could have some great ideas that we might not even think of. So if you have any other ideas for types of segments or anything you'd like to include in the podcast where we do them together, typically he's going to be in the predictions as well, whether we include them in the actual podcast just once a week or we do a separate video like this for the predictions. Typically he's going to be in there, but our schedules are all kinds of split apart, so maybe every once in a great while he won't be in the predictions, or maybe every once in a while I have to drop a solo podcast a week here or there just because our schedules don't match up. We both have kind of opposite schedules, but we're going to try to have him in pretty much every episode from here on out, because I think it helps give the podcast a lot more potential, and I think, honestly, I had more fun doing it that way, with somebody to kind of bounce ideas off. So shout out to Kyle. I hope you guys enjoyed him on the first podcast. But without further ado, we're going to get into predictions. Obviously, only being solo predictions for this week, but we'll try to get them at the end of every podcast. But with our last one, we were at an hour 40 without predictions, so it was crazy long already, and I don't want to make a 3-hour long podcast. But here's the brackets. Kind of an interesting bracket because we've got the usual suspects up in the winners bracket, your OpTic, your Dallas, your Faze. But interestingly enough, I think this is probably got to be the first time Faze, yeah, it has to be, they have like 4 or 5 losses in the year. Got to be the first time Faze isn't in the winners round 2 right away with the first round bye. Instead, OpTic takes them out and gets that spot. And then down in losers, we've got kind of an interesting thing down here, because you've got like subliners in the first round of losers, which is weird because they've been so good all year. And then on the bottom, you've got like all the teams that are eliminated besides LAG, all in their own little like mini gauntlet playing each other, which is, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I have kind of some hot takes I can go from there. But yeah, we're going to get right into the predictions. Don't want to make this one too crazy long. Just want you guys to see my predictions for the bracket. I always like to start in losers. You guys know this, just to kind of get this portion done. We'll start at the top here. New York versus LAG. This is an interesting one because the whole Clay situation. Obviously, in the last podcast we talked about it, but it was before the stuff came out about him going to Empire, or like having the potential to go to Empire. So we hadn't actually heard about that prior to recording the podcast. So it sounds like DiamondCon could potentially be in for the entire year, because Clay might just be done for hopefully only the year. Hopefully it's not his career, because that'd be a horrible way for Clay to go out, and he still can play. We know that. But New York LAG is the focus here. LAG made the roster change. They honestly look horrendous since the roster change. Mental doesn't look great. I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, though. He's an all-time great, like I said in the last podcast, all-time great in a different esport, so I find it hard to believe that he will be just like completely awful at COD. That's pretty much impossible, I think. But I think he just got kind of thrown into a bad situation with a team that's kind of chalked things up. So he's just kind of unlucky there. And I think overall this is kind of a battle of two teams at their lowest point, but I think the talent on New York is just better. Guys like Hydra and Asim, and even Mac, even Diamond Con's pretty good. I feel like they're going to find a way to pull this out. Just because of the struggles of both teams, I'm going to give the Gorillas one map, just because I think they'll find a way with their veteran players to find a map. If New York was in normal form, or even looked like okay instead of bad, I'd probably pick a 3-0. But we're going to go one map just because I think there's a possible way LAG pulls off an upset, just because of how bad New York have been playing. But I think Talon wins out here. And then the other losers bracket, round 1 match, we've got Seattle versus Paris. Another interesting one because of these kind of like dark horse teams out of the playoffs, I feel like on land, these are the two teams that maybe have the most potential to make some noise. And I mean, one of them is bound to make a small little bit of noise because Surge, Paris, and London, between the three of them, one of them has to make it to the third round of the elimination bracket or the losers bracket because they all play each other. So the way it's kind of designed, that could end up setting up for something fun because one of them is guaranteed elimination round 3, and then they could realistically play like Minnesota, who like, I mean, obviously Minnesota is better than them, but like if you see like London versus Minnesota, like that's a potential London win, so we could see them all the way in like top 6. And then once they get top 6, who knows? So that, I mean, that's kind of the storyline I'm hoping for this weekend. Like, screw it, we already know our top 8. I'm kind of hoping for like a Surge, Paris, or London run all the way. So I might pick something crazy like that. But in this first match, both teams have kind of chalked it up. But I feel like last time we saw on land, Paris gets taken down right away. I believe they got 3-0. Oh no, Paris beat LA Thieves in the last land. Actually, I think when the whole Hook thing went down, but. I feel like Surge in the last LAN, we saw them win a couple matches, and also we saw them... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Paris did not beat Thieves in the last LAN. What am I saying? LAG beat Thieves in the last LAN. But I feel like we see Surge play better on LAN again because, I mean, they took OpTic to a map 5 last time, but I think this one's actually going to be close. I'm going 3-1. I think Paris finds a way to take a respawn, either the first hard point or that third map control. I think Paris finds a way to take a respawn, so I'm going to go with them to get a map again. I can't find myself picking too many 3-1s, though, like I always do. Then we'll go back up to the top of the losers bracket here with Florida versus New York. Another weird one because this just seems like a match that Florida would lose always against a team that's ice cold right now in New York, and Florida needing wins to potentially find themselves in the 6th seed, because I believe there's something like if Minnesota loses both matches and Florida gets top 6, then Florida gets the 6th seed and finds themselves in winners. I mean, obviously, if Florida just wins the event, they'll be in winners bracket. So that's what they need to focus on, is getting up in that top 3 and just keep rolling it. But this seems like a trap match for Florida because it seems like one that's a free win that they might overlook. But I don't think they're going to overlook it too hard. I actually think I'm going to pick them to 3-0 New York. We always say, got to pick some 3-0s. Realistically, Florida should 3-0 New York in the current form they're in. But you never know. I mean, you got players like Hydra and Asim, like I just said, and Mac, that their supreme talent could just find them a way to win against these other, like, kind of middle teams. But I'm going to put my faith in Florida. In the last pod, I said I could see them making a run to, like, top 6, top 4 potentially. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that in that, because after looking at things, I kind of think that I want to make Thieves have a run or something, but I don't know. I'm going to say Florida beats New York at least. Then in the other match, we got London Surge. To me, this is honestly, whether this is Surge or whether this is London versus Paris or London versus Surge, this is one of the most intriguing matches of the major for me because I want to see whatever team wins this make a run really far. And I'm going to say that it's Surge winning in a map 5 over London. Why am I saying that? Well, we've seen Alex struggle a lot. Shawnee has been Shawnee. I mean, he's been a solid player, not great, not terrible, just a solid player. And then Paul X been pretty good. I mean, he's kind of tailed off a little bit from his super insane start, but that's just because his start was so hot. He still looked pretty good overall. And then Afro has looked insane. Like I said, right when he came in, I thought this dude had some talent from the moment I saw him, and he's proven that he has a lot of talent. But I think it's not going to be enough for how well Gunless has seemed to play lately. I think Octane's going to play very well on LAN again. To me, this just comes down to a matter of motivation. I can see a way that Surge are just ready to chalk it up and kind of just like lay down flat and not do anything. And London seems like a team that's very passionate, so I can see the way that they come out fired up, ready to win. So I do certainly think London could win this one, but I'm going with Surge just because they looked pretty damn good at the last land. And I'm going to ride off that, and I kind of want them to make a run. Going up to the winners bracket, though, on the top, we've got Ultra versus Thieves. I'm going with Ultra on this one in a 3-1 fashion. No, 3-2. I'm going to stick with it. I actually think Thieves are going to play really well in this major. Their backs are against the wall. Once again, they're a team that is not in the top 6. I believe it's them in 8th, and then Florida in 7th, and Minnesota in 6th. So Thieves need to play well in this major because, once again, they have one of the upper hands because they technically probably have the easier bracket than Minnesota. I mean, playing Toronto is definitely not easy, but I think you'd rather play Toronto than play like Faze. So, I mean, they can take out Toronto and then somehow take out OpTic. They're looking pretty for a chance to find themselves in winner's bracket, which is obviously the big goal of this tournament, is find yourself in winners for champs in that top 6 position. But I do think that Ultra is the better team still, even though we've seen them start to tail off maybe slightly. I mean, they still went 4-1 in this stage. Like, they're not like falling off or anything, but they haven't looked like as dominant. They used to always beat Dallas, and now they lost to Dallas again in the group stages of this stage. But I think Toronto is going to take out Thieves 3-2. I just think it's going to be a close map set. But I got to stick with the better team for now. Then in Faze Rocker, I think this one's pretty simple. We're going to pick a 3-0 again. You got to pick some. 3-0 Faze. I do think Rocker could take a map or two. Maybe there's an outside world where they get hot and win, but I mean, it's very tough to pick Faze to lose anything except for like a final at this point because they win the first major, lose in the final in the second major, and then win in the last 2 majors. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Faze has lost 1 series at a major all year, and it was the grand final of the second one. I'm pretty sure they came from winners and won the first tournament, and then came from winners and lost to Ultra because that was the big controversy about there being no advantage for winners teams, and then came from winners and won the last 2. So I believe they've only lost 1 series in total at a major, unless I'm remembering things wrong, but it's very tough to not pick Faze to be in a grand final, whether it's through losers or winners, since they've been in every final so far, and they haven't really slowed down. I mean, they had 1 hiccup loss to OpTic, and then they followed that up with absolutely stomping New York in what looked like a pub. But we'll just do the winners round 2 right away. We got OpTic versus Ultra. This is an interesting one because, once again, I would have definitely been picking OpTic, no doubt, if they took out Thieves 3-0 after they 100-point clubbed them, like 6-1 them in search, and that they would have like 3-0 them in control. I'd have been like, OpTic is on fire. They're 5-0 on the stage. We're picking them over Ultra, no doubt. But then they lose to Thieves, and then I'm like, okay, if Ultra actually beats Empire, they're 5-0. They lose to Empire, kind of make me lose as much faith in them being a dominant team. So I'm just like, what do we do? What do we do? But I'm going to go with OpTic. I think it's going to be a thriller again in a 3-2. Ultra plays another 5-game series, finds a way to lose. I think this is going to be like a 6-4 last map win for OpTic and Search. I think they get over the hump against Ultra and Search and Destroy and win at 3-2. It's a really tough one because obviously I could see Ultra winning this. They have been the better team for a majority of the year, but OpTic seems to be hitting their form as they always do around champs time. And Ultra seems to be kind of like staying steady where they are, but not constantly improving. And if there's one thing we know come champs time, even if you're the best team in the game, you've got to be constantly improving to win because teams are just too good nowadays for you to become stagnant in one position. And for that reason, I go OpTic 3-2 over Ultra. But I don't know if that's going to be it for Ultra. They can make a run still. Then we got Empire Faze. Honestly, this matchup is tougher than you would expect to pick because Empire have looked freaking good lately. They took Faze to a map 9 in the last final at Major 4. I mean, if you would have seen this matchup like a month ago, you just said, oh my god, this is easy. Faze 3-0 because Empire wasn't that great. But Vivid's really come into his own. He looks like an awesome player. I think he's made the game easier on Shotzzy as well, with the way that Shotzi's been able to move around the map, with Vivid helping to open things up. With that said, though, I think they only get a map in this series. It's so hard, like I said, to pick against Faze, so I got to stick with them, and I'm going to take them 3-1. Although this is the best chance I think Empire have had all year to take out Faze. Obviously, they were close in the major, but like in a regular old series, it's not the best of 9. I think this is the most confident I've ever been in Dallas to have a chance. Like before, when these two teams were playing before Major 4, I thought Empire never had a single chance to hang in a series with Faze. Now, I do think there's an outside chance they could find a way to win the series. But I'm not picking them, that's for sure. Elimination round 3. A crazy interesting matchup here in the top, and also kind of in the bottom. We've got Thieves, Mutineers. The reason this is interesting might not be as interesting to you. I mean, well, first, it's the teams that are 7 and 8 in the standings. So obviously, seeding implications are huge, especially if this is the way it goes down, because Minnesota is also down there. Obviously, if Florida is eliminated, LA Thieves is praying that they're eliminated, first of all, because New York's probably a worse team right now, and second, they need to catch Florida, so having them eliminated early would help. But this has huge seeding implications. It also kind of sucks because it's the two teams I want to see make a huge run, because I do kind of want them both to be dark horses for champs. In this case, though, I think Florida is going to hit their inconsistent bump and lose in a 3-1 fashion. It's a weird pick. I know I thought I put a lot of faith in Florida and Neptune and Awakening and those guys in the last pod, but something is telling me that the veteran LAN experience of guys like John and Slasher is going to come through. Even Kenny is going to come through along with Draza, and they're going to make some plays and beat Florida 3-1, because as we know, Florida loves to be inconsistent. Then Minnesota Surge. You have no idea how bad I want to pick Surge here, because it's fun. I mean, why wouldn't you want to pick Surge here? Minnesota, they're kind of just a boring team. They're a solid team. On any given day, they can beat anyone. We know this. With guys like Attach in your team, you can always beat anyone. Attach, best 1v1 player in the world. I say it every time I get to talk about him. Best 1v1 Surge player in the world. And just overall clutch. The dude always comes up in big moments. You got guys like Major Maniac, also great player. Priest, obviously great. And Standy Young, up-and-comer. Like, this team can beat anybody, but for some reason, they're just kind of a team that I just it's whatever. Like, they always seem to make series close, but they don't seem to win the big ones. Seattle, obviously, don't win the big ones because they don't win many series. But, man, I want to pick Seattle so bad, but I'm not going to do it. I'm actually going to say the series goes 5 games, though. And Minnesota, obviously, winning 3-2. I want so badly for this to be Florida and Minnesota eliminated here, and Surge and Thieves moves on, and then Surge and Thieves also win to get to that next elimination round, because I think it'd be wildly entertaining, and also it'd make probably Thieves get into the winners bracket, which I personally feel like they're the most fun, entertaining team to be in winners bracket at champs. I would like to see Minnesota and Florida as the 7 and 8 personally, because I truly think Thieves might be that 6th best team, so I would like to see them on the winners side of it, especially with Slasher and those guys on LAN. But I got to pick Seattle to lose. I think they're going to make it a tight one, though. Oh, and then the elimination round 4. It always seems to be that one team pulls off an upset in order to knock out who you believe are the top 4 from being the top 4 in the tournament. So, coming into this tournament, I think everybody would unanimously say that the top 4, in whatever order you want to say, involves Faze, OpTic, Ultra, and Empire. I mean, whatever. I think you have to say Faze is 1, and then other than that, I think you can put them in any order between OpTic, Empire, and Ultra. I think that's what everybody would say their top 4 is, and it never seems to work out that the top 4, who you believe to be the top 4, is the top 4 come the end of the tournament time. So if this is how it shakes out, I guarantee you Thieves or Rocker are winning. It's just, which one do you want to pick? Super hard to pick against Empire since they've played so well, so I'm not going to, but I am going to say this one goes 5 as well. If Thieves are hot, I can see a way to win it, but it's so hard to pick against Empire the way they've been playing. If Thieves were down here playing against Ultra, I think I would pick them. But the way the bracket shapes out, they're not. So I can't pick them. Then we've got Ultra versus Minnesota. Man, Ultra is just too good for me. I think they win it in a 3-1 fashion. Minnesota is going to play them so tough, though. Minnesota always plays Ultra tough, it seems like. Regardless if they win the series or not, they play them tight. But I do think it's going to be a 3-1. I got to pick Ultra because of how well they've played. Then in this elimination round 5, Dallas versus Ultra. Matchup happens again. I think Ultra get the best of them here. I hate to say it. I hate to say Dallas is going to get a top 5 again, but I think it's a classic, all-time classic 3-2 series, and Ultra finally get the revenge. Dallas has had their number. Obviously, Dallas beat them in the last major. They beat them in this last group stage, and then they're playing again here in the major, as my predictions go, and I think Ultra's finally going to get the best of them. Am I confident in this pick? I'd say confidence level on a percentage 0 to 100%, 10%. Not confident at all. I really think there's a way Dallas could win this major, so it's tough to pick them to be out this early, but to me, I truly think that Faze obviously is the favorite. I think OpTic has a legitimate chance to win this major. I think Ultra have a legitimate chance to win this major, and I think Empire also have a legit chance, and I even think teams like LA Thieves and Minnesota, who are in the winners bracket, have a very dark horse. I mean, we're talking far-fetched, but dark horse chance. Probably nobody from the losers just because they're in losers, but like Florida would be the only team. But I truly think that there are 4 teams that I would not even be surprised one bit if they won, so it's tough. One of them has to go out top 4. And for me, it's Empire right now, which is weird because they're probably the second best team in the game right now, but some feeling I have is telling me to do that. Then we've got Chicago OpTic versus Atlanta Faze in the winners final. The last time we saw them play, we saw OpTic win 3-2. I don't think we have a repeat of that. I think it goes to a map 5, but I think Faze pull it out. I truly believe that Faze is the better team in general. I don't know how you could say OpTic is the better team right now. If OpTic comes out and beats them in the winners final and then like beats them in the final again, then maybe we can talk about OpTic being the best team. But as of right now, I don't see how you can say OpTic is the better team. I think Faze had maybe an off match against OpTic. OpTic played really well, and we know OpTic has the talent to beat a team like Faze. So I mean, they had to do it eventually. And then Faze came out and proved that they were not slacking against New York. I mean, New York obviously doesn't have their full team, but still talented players, and Faze made them look silly. So yeah, I'm going with Faze 3-2. Then we've got OpTic versus Ultra. Will we see the third reinstallment of Faze versus Ultra? Yeah, because Major 2 was that, then Major 3 was also that. Major 1 was Faze Empire, and Major 4 was Faze Empire. So yeah, I mean, if we see Faze or Empire, or I mean Ultra or Empire in the finals, it'd be the same finals as two of the other tournaments. So I think the trend changes here. I think OpTic takes out Toronto in a 3-1 fashion. I think this is finally OpTic's tournament to make a run. It's getting towards champs time. Time for them to kick it into gear. They've been kicking it into gear lately. I think they finally get over the hump and finally play in their first finals of the year. Once again, like a 10% confidence in this. This top 4 is a crapshoot to me. But hopefully we get more clarity. Hopefully like we come out and we see either Ultra, Dallas, or OpTic kind of like bully the other two. Because we know Faze is probably still going to be in the top 2 after this tournament. So hopefully we see one of the teams between OpTic, Ultra, and Empire kind of bully the other two and just find their way into the finals. So we have a solidified number 2 team. Or screw it, let's see a team like Thieves in Florida or Rocker make a run and just like solidify the field as absolutely chaotic going into champs. We have no idea what's going to happen. But then we get into the best of 9 with Atlanta having the veto advantage coming from winners bracket. Not that it's a huge deal. I think Atlanta still find a way to win this. I think it's going to be obviously 5 for Atlanta, and I think I'm going to go like 3 for OpTic. I think OpTic finds a way to win probably one of each. I think they find a way to win a hardpoint, a control, and a search. I think in general, though, Faze are just probably the overall better search team and better control team, and I think that's what makes the difference in this series. I think they find a way to win just more of those than OpTic, more of the searches and the controls. I think the hardpoints are probably the most even, and I do think there's a chance OpTic wins this if they can get out hot and win like the first hardpoint, the first search, get like a 2-0 lead. I think there's a way that they can find a way to win 3 of the next 7 maps and take out Ultra, but I will, or not Ultra, my god, I'm screwing this all up. Take out Faze, but I think that Faze is just a better team, so it's way too hard to pick against them. But there you have it. There is my picks for the major. I did something that I don't normally do, and that's pick the teams that probably should win. I mean, granted, some of you would say OpTic probably shouldn't win versus Ultra, but to me, Ultra, Empire, and OpTic are on the same level, like I said, like dead even. I don't know who to pick between them, but I usually would have like somebody like Thieves or Mutineers or Rocker up here in this top 4 somewhere, just because that's how it always seems to go. But since I didn't pick them this time, if you guys haven't made your bracket yet, please pick Thieves and Rocker to make it in the final 4, because whoever I pick against, whenever I don't pick a dark horse team to go far, they always go far. The only time it's ever worked for me last year is when I picked London to make it to top 4 in champs, and I picked the top 4 exactly right. I picked Empire, Faze, OpTic, or Huntsman, I guess, technically, and London. That was the only time I ever picked my like super dark horse in a big tournament and actually got it really, really correctly. But yeah, there you have it. I'm picking Faze 5-3. That's going to do it for this episode, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what your predictions are for the weekend, as well as what you guys thought of that last podcast. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out, please, because it's a new style with a new co-host in Kyle. And I think he did a fantastic job, so show him some love as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Specifically comment down below, even if you don't want to tell me all your predictions for the major. Tell me who you think is winning the major and who you think is winning MVP. With Faze winning, I mean, it could be anybody. Probably it'll be Simp, I would say, because they seem to love Simp, and he usually puts up the overall like best looking numbers. So yeah, comment down below your MVP of this tournament, as well as who you have winning. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast following the major. Hope you guys enjoy watching it. Should be a fun weekend. Have a safe, fun weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.